Accept. First things first, Alabama State Bar rules require the following language in all attorney communication. No representation is made that the quality of legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services provided by other lawyers. We would remind you that while people are adults and may smoke during our podcast, we certainly don't condone it. So, boys and girls, who all's out there? Paul, how you doing, man?
Very good, very good. The Rip Report, Baldwin County Legal Eagle. We're here today on 4/20, a momentous day.
And we have a special guest also, Miss Callaway from Mobile Baykeeper. How are you, Miss Callaway?
I'm good. It's Casi Callaway. Glad to be here.
And holding down the fort in Houston, Texas. How you doing?
The Houston Bureau Chief of Backstory Media LLC is hanging in there, social distancing, completely isolated, and not even remotely close to losing my mind. So I'm great.
Excellent, excellent. Well, Ms. Callaway, we are glad to have you with us today. This is, why don't you just tell us where you were 10 years ago today? And when did you get the news about the Deepwater Horizon oil spill?
Well, this was a slow feed for, I think, most of us in Alabama. The rig exploded on April 20th, 2010, and then it took several days before we really understood that there was oil gushing out of the bottom of the Gulf of Mexico, and then B, that oil even remotely had an opportunity to hit us on the Alabama Gulf Coast. So on April 20th, I just went back and looked at my little Facebook feed, and we had fought and beaten back a road in Baldwin County. So we were very excited to protect a portion of the community from red clay and runoff and overdevelopment in an area. And then it's Earth Month in April, so we are hosting every event you could possibly imagine and doing all sorts of outreach. And then on that weekend was the weekend I got to go to the beach with my family. And on the ride down to the Gulf, I remember hearing that the well was not capped. But it wasn't until the following week that we really knew that this was our disaster and that it was going to be something we had to face for 87 days, plus all of the lifetime of still looking at what's happening with it now.
So, Rains, you were
Yes.
in Mississippi during all this. Did you know anyone who died on the rig? There were 11 people whose bodies were incinerated.
No, I had a few degrees of separation from two or three people that were on the rig, but from no one that perished from the accident. No.
They list 13 lives lost, 17 injured, and 210,000 U.S. gallons of oil was released.
200
million
gallons.
Yeah,
and I think it was 11 lives that were lost on the rig, but there were also additional lives lost across the Gulf of Mexico due to everything from suicide to, significant other issues related and associated.
Hey, do you know if anybody's killed this Jake leg or not? Tony Hayward? Any of the Kunas Mafia get him or anything?
No, he was sent to, I think he was literally sent to the North Pole.
No, he's recently gotten a new job and in the same salary range. So I wish that he actually did get his life back.
When he was kept away from his America's Cup sailboat race because of the BP oil spill. Y'all remember that, right?
Tragedy.
Oh yeah.
I mean, what kind of a different walk of life does this guy have from anybody who grew up down here? So Casi, the tourism dollars, this is just an infographic that I got from Louisiana showing 10, 11, 12, and 13. They estimated 22 billion lost in revenue. And of course, as a hunter and a fisherman, yes, I'm concerned about tourism, but I can tell you this. I haven't seen speckled trout numbers. I haven't seen white shrimp numbers. I haven't seen, well, I won't say sheephead. We did catch a good number of sheephead, but redfish, any number of species that are gone from Inner Point through Perdita Bay, Arnica Bay, Wolf Bay, and on out into Mobile Bay. Do you hear that same thing from people who have fished all their lives?
Well, let me back up and talk about the tourism dollars. That's not just that those are Louisiana numbers. But Alabama had one beach going season, cost the Alabama state legislature $1 billion in taxes. So keep that number in mind, because I think it's a really important number. The lost revenue for us with seafood, landings was a dramatic number. The lost revenue for, and you got to remember, like, who all benefits from you going to the beach. It's people you don't think about. It is the person who washes the linens in the hotels and condominiums. It's the people who put paper plates and paper towels in restaurants, as well as the seafood on the restaurant tables.
Right.
My favorite kind of thought that Robert Kraft, the mayor of Gulf Shores, gave was that, they had these amazing amenities all over Gulf Shores, Alabama, and shockingly enough, no matter how much they invested in the amenities, the reason people came to the beach was for the beach. And I kind of always knew that, but it was really interesting for him to really share that and tell that story. But I think when you're talking about seafood, one of the most important, seafood, wildlife, all of it, one of the big important, and a lot of those tourism numbers, also are not just going to the beach numbers. They are recreational seafood, going out, charter boat captains. They are the folks who, they are hunting and fishing numbers, especially for Louisiana, because people stopped going to where you go and do some of the most fun hunting because you can't, because it wasn't available. Areas were closed for so long.
Are you damn sure wouldn't want to eat it if you caught it?
There's that. And I've heard stories that I hadn't heard this recently, but I did hear a couple of news stories in the past week talking about the seafood industry across coastal Alabama in particular. People still fear eating Gulf seafood. Now, I don't, and my family still eats it, but because I know that we didn't test it before very well. And we actually did start testing it better, which was right. Interesting to note. But, I don't know what that, I'm going to let that just be in terms of what that means.
So all around the bay.
Hang on, I can tell you, and I have to disclose this for many and sordid, but mainly ethical reasons. I was employed as a lobbyist for the Gulf Seafood Alliance back when this was going on. And one of the things that that group and other groups that I worked with, the Mississippi Seafood Processors Association and whatnot, we invested a lot of money and sweat equity into marketing campaigns that kicked off in about 2015. It said, look, Gulf seafood is okay to eat now. And
right.
Even until now, we're still having to spend a little bit of money and a little bit of equity in getting the message out there. Hey, look, the ocean is the most resilient ecosystem on the planet. It'll fix itself in a lot of ways. Stuff moves around. Gulf seafood is safe to eat now. And Casey, you're absolutely right. We are still dealing with the stigma 10 years later of people saying, no, I don't want Gulf shrimp. I don't want Gulf redfish. I don't want Gulf lemonfish. Get me something from somewhere else because I'm still worried about BP. So that's
and hopefully y'all have seen the studies, and I hope you'll link to it in how you post this information. But the University of South Florida study that came out in the last week, 10 years later, they caught 2,500 fish. They tested every single one of those fish, and 100% of those fish had BP oil disaster oil markers in them. Now, that doesn't mean it's poisonous. It doesn't mean you're going to die. It doesn't mean you can't eat them or that we're going to have a collapse of the fishery, but
It's still there.
It's there and it's real.
All right. So let me ask back to my question. The detergents and dispersants that were, and I'm still not clear about who did that. I think they used military aircraft, AC-130s to spray the oil. And as far as I know, we were never told what was in that dispersant. I mean, it wasn't just Ivory soap. We know that.
No. It was oh my gosh. I can't believe it's not coming to my brain. By the time we finish this conversation, the actual name brand of the dispersant will come into my head, I assure you.
All right. So let me ask you another question. Besides Bon Secure Fisheries and Joe Patty Seafood, where can John Q. Public go buy a speckled trout, flounder, or pound of shrimp in Baldwin or Mobile counties? I can think of 10 seafood shops that closed because of BP oil spill, and they never opened up again.
Casey was correct.
That one in going to Gulf Shores on the right at the gas station is still in existence. Thank goodness they survived.
The Battery seafood processors are still thriving, or thriving again, I should say. It's been a big challenge for them in that there have been no oysters. So you couldn't, we closed down Mobile Bay for oyster processing this year. So that was
because of fresh water coming down the river, correct?
Fresh water, varieties of issues. There are multiples. We've also sewage spills. But most of those seafood harvesters and processors where seafood is landed in the bayou, those are up and running and still. But I don't know if you can go in and buy. Ralph Atkins Southern Fish and Oyster is closed, and that was a devastating loss. But that's been in the last couple of years.
Well, and also the only damn thing that got condemned for this $2 billion bridge project is where I've been buying speckled trout for 25 years, right next to the cruise terminal parking deck. That's the only thing they condemned, and I don't know if they've started tearing it down or not, but the family doesn't own it anymore. Were you familiar with them? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't want to get you sidetracked, Casey, but I would like to ask you, what do you think would be, this is hypothetical as well, but what do you think would be the effects of the steam plant and coal ash if that levee and that was to burst versus what we experienced with the oil spill?
So they're the BP oil disaster was 200 million gallons of oil gushing out of the bottom of the Gulf of Mexico for 87 days. The total. It took 87 days for us to get to that number, and that number is still very debatable. I assure you there are others, including myself, who don't trust that number, but I'll use it. We know exactly how much coal ash is housed at Plant Berry. It's 21 million tons. That's about 20 times the volume of the BP oil disaster. So it's a lot. And the biggest difference is with freshwater flowing at 60,000 cubic feet per second, which, by the way, is really, really fast on the Mobile River. With that fresh water pushing down and out in Mobile Bay, it had a really positive impact of keeping BP oil out of coming into the bay because that flow is so fast and so hard. But the opposite would be an effect with breach at the Berry steam plant. What would happen is that 60,000 cubic feet per second fast moving river would carry that coal ash down into the bay, down onto our beaches, all throughout the Delta. And that is our biggest worry. And when you combine it with the fact that we've not done the right thing to protect ourselves against the next BP oil disaster, we are not doing the right thing legally and with regulations and rules to ensure against a breach at Plant Berry or any of the other facilities in Alabama. I think what I'm kind of reliving, and I don't know how deeply y'all were mired in this 10 years ago, but it was certainly my every single day. And this current crisis of being in quarantine, and y'all can see I'm in my living room or dining room, actually. So you haven't seen my kid or my husband running through here yet, but it's sure to happen. But we are all facing a different kind of crisis. We've got a health crisis that is resulting in a significant economic disaster for our country. And the BP oil disaster was an environmental disaster that had a significant environmental impact or economic impact across the whole Gulf Coast, and certainly in Alabama. So we can do better, and we should be doing better.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree with you more.
Well, we certainly support Baykeeper's efforts, whatever it is, on that coal ash, because the first time I saw the aerial photo of it, I thought, oh my God, how did it ever get to this point? And I don't know, you keep hearing from Alabama Power, don't worry, everything's cool, you know, but that's what they always say until something happens, you know.
Right.
So, Casey, I understand that you are from one of the first Baldwin families, according to our Department of Archives and History. Your family's been down in Orange Beach for 150 years. Is that about right?
Technically, no. Technically, I am a Georgia Callaway. But the Georgia Callaways and the Gulf Shores Callaways go up to a Callaway, and one went one way and one went the other. So I'm a Callaway Gardens, Georgia, Claxton, fruitcake capital of the world, Callaway. And then, but the Beamises and our families we're all related.
So, I don't know if you can see my screen, but do you have this book, a history of Baldwin County?
I do have it. I haven't read it in a while. It's been a while.
So, Rains and I were having a discussion and the other day about this, about the legend of Prince Maddock. You familiar with that?
No, I can't remember. Remind me.
Okay, in front of the old inn at Fort Morgan is a bronze plaque which bears the following inscription: in memory of Prince Maddock, a Welsh explorer who landed on the shores of Mobile Bay in 1170 and left with the Indians the Welsh language.
Wow.
This memorial was erected by the Richmond, Virginia chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution and dedicated by Mobile's Virginia Cavalier chapter of the organization November 10th, 1953. So when you take the school kids over to Fort Morgan, that plaque stands there.
Excellent.
You think there's any truth to that? I keep trying to tell Rains that, of course, Welsh people discovered America, and it was at Fort Morgan.
I just love that we're older than everybody else. That to me is the best part.
1170. Wow.
Oh yeah, and they keep finding these white Indians bones and forts made of stone. You know, it's kind of like finding Jesus's 747.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a perfect analogy.
Yeah. All right. Well, Casey, we're going to move on to some unseemly discussion, and you're certainly welcome to stick around. But if you would like, we really appreciate your time, and certainly you letting Cade participate with us before. And stay safe. And wash your damn hands. That's what I keep telling Paul. That's what I keep telling Paul. Wash your damn hands, Paul. Well, Casey, thank you so much for participating.
You're welcome back if you have a particular issue you want to push or discuss. You're more than welcome back on the show.
I would love to join y'all again. And I want to also encourage your listeners to become a member of Mobile Baykeeper today. I want to really quickly just plug for the work that we're continuing to do during this disaster. We're still doing our water quality sampling. We are still responding to pollution reports. We had several sewage spills over the big storms last night that our people are going out and monitoring and tracking. And we're doing that, but our state agency isn't necessarily. So, and we've had to push our big fundraisers off. So I would love for y'all to consider being a member if you're not, mobilebaykeeper.org. get involved in our work. Tell us what you need from us and we'll get on it. And I really, again, appreciate y'all taking the time to let me join the call today.
Great. No, thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye. All right, Paul. So tell me where your picture was taken. Is that Belize?
That picture was taken in Belize about 1970. No, about 1983. And that's what we call a Jewfish. That one went over 200 pounds, and that's my daughter, Mariah. She was about 3 at the time.
Yep. So my photograph is of me and my sister, and if you can see the little white speck over there, that's Bear Point. So you're looking south towards Bear Point Marina, right over here.
Oh yeah, okay.
Our place in Josephine, and we are fishing with, guess what?
Looks like watermelon.
No, it's tomato.
Tomatoes.
Yeah, we used to catch pinfish with tomatoes, and then take them to get in the boat and take them over to the bridge and drop them down and catch redfish, whatever. But we were catching bait. And Rains, when was this jewel taken? 2 or 3 years ago?
Yeah. That was about 2012. No, that was 1994. And I was working as a mate on the Biloxi schooner Glen L. Sweatman, and I'm wearing quite possibly the oldest BC in recorded history. I think it was 30 years old back then. I had just done I think that picture was taken today. I did some through-hole fitting maintenance on both of the schooners, the Glen L. Sweatman and Mike Seacool in Biloxi, Mississippi, in a small craft harbor there.
Well, I want to get to some numbers real quick. So Paul and I were laughing. These numbers that you're seeing right here are have obviously dated. The new numbers as of 11/30 on 4/20/20, 4,999 confirmed cases. So we're about to go from that color to that color.
And that is with what is the last number of people that lost their life? I had 113. I think
113 is right, and only 45,000 tests administered. And that's part of opening the economy back up, adequate testing, so forth and so on. I don't know how the hell, when you've only tested 1% of your population, you can say we're doing adequate testing. So let's talk about, how they keep showing this. Showing the tick marks as we go, the curve goes up or the curve goes down. So on 4/17/20, I'm sorry, 4/11/20, we had 326 new cases, and we're down to on the 17th we were down to 242 new cases. Of course, those are new cases, and at the same time we got X number of people dying in hospitals. According to my information, there are 116 cases in Baldwin County. This number down here went from 91 to 116. And that's an infection rate of 51.1 per 100,000. So there's,
and that is today on 4/20, which is the predicted peak. However, the Institute out of Washington metric system is saying that they think that Alabama, and I believe it was Arkansas, was actually going to peak a little bit later, since our infection rate started later as well.
So right now in Alabama, there's 641 people hospitalized, but they will not break it down for us by hospital, and they will not tell us who is on a ventilator. If you can imagine that. All right, Paul, let's talk about the McSharry case again. So I want to preface this with,
well, you want to go through the 4/20 a little more?
It doesn't matter to me. We can do some 4/20.
Well, we got to all right. Well,
I got my little bit of smoke and I got my little bit of Coke. I'm ready for 4/20. Let's do it.
So from a realistic perspective, gentlemen, Here is the Reconomics from AL.com about states that have legalized CDB, medical legalization, and medical and recreational legalization. And as of right now, no one has signed a bill on this medical marijuana stuff. Are you aware of that, Paul?
No, I don't think that they have.
Yeah, it's out of the Senate, it's to the House, and here's when all the real horse shit gets added in, and who's gonna be. So one more time, they took a bill that was done for humanitarian purposes, and we've corrupted it and turned it into a coveted thing of value that right now it's the Wild West between members, lobbyists, members of the legislature about who's going to get these 31 coveted permits to open a dispensary. And anyway, that's what.
Let's back up just a second,
Okay.
though, for those people that don't really know what 420 means. 420 started at San Rafael High School in California, of course, in 1971 by Benny Bufano, and it was celebrated at the statue of Louis Pasteur, one that invented or the cure to penicillin. And today it's celebrated around the world by the cannabis counterculture, legal reformers, esogenetic spiritualists, and general users of cabanas. And today at 420, millions of people around the world are going to light up and celebrate by smoking a little bit of bud. And that's how 420 originally got started. Now, today, 420, the Alabama Cannabis Association is announcing its website and its organization. So there's quite a bit going on 420 today.
And Paul, that's a trade association, correct? Of farmers,
yes.
processors,
yes.
distributors.
Yes, and I think right now that they have, I believe it was, I counted 23, 24 different members as of today.
Great. So, as far as we know, unless something is terribly derailed or the House attaches too many things that no one can live with, Alabama will have sometime in the near future 31 dispensaries. It will be for some kind of a process. If it's something that has THC in it, it will not be flower. It will be in some other consumable form. Do you know? Are they going to allow vapes or no? Just edibles?
No, I don't believe there's any smoke involved.
Okay. Well,
medical marijuana.
I do.
Go for it.
Edibles is the way to go. I mean, I love edibles. I don't even really smoke much anymore. Period. Once in a blue moon, but it's edibles is the way, man. That's what I'm hearing out of Colorado and California too. That they've all gone pretty much to edibles.
So I've been looking at the science of it, and there's something weird that happens in your body. I believe it's in your liver. So you're right, Rains. It's a different experience than smoking flower. Physiologically.
If it has something to do with going through your liver, I'm definitely getting a different experience because I got a liver of a 194-year-old. So it's
Thank God he took the round in the liver. He'll live. That's what Kevlar liver of Rains Russian.
That's right.
Well, let me ask you this, Harry.
Yes, sir.
What does the oil spill, the legal production of medical marijuana, 420, and the lobbyists that will represent the hemp industry in Alabama all have in common?
Well, it's all a dumpster fire.
Nope. It's Trip Pittman. Senator Pittman is the one that received approximately $750,000 when he was the appointed trustee. And I don't believe people understand that as a title. He was the trustee. He was the banker of the money, BP money, that was to be dispersed in Baldwin County. And the very first thing he did was manipulate himself $639,000 out of it. And now I understand that Mr. Pittman is trying to get into the medical marijuana industry. And I would advise those people on a consumer standpoint to stay as far away from Mr. Pittman as they can. And him and their association will not do them any good.
So why would a guy who is on top of the world, it just got a bunch of money from the out of the BP money, why would he gracefully bow out of politics, Paul? What's the angle there? I mean, all I've ever heard is they all want a position of higher power.
No, I think that his reputation and stature diminished to such a point to where he basically forced himself out, because he was known all over the county for what he had done.
Yes.
And the investigation, by the way, got all the way to the Attorney General's office in the white collar crime section and was investigated by the FBI. And the reasons that I'm hearing that Pittman was never convicted was simply because Matt Hart of the white collar section at the time for the Attorney General was all tied up with Mike Hubbard, and they didn't have enough investigators to.
And he was investigating the Attorney General elect who had taken $750,000 illegally from a out-of-state pack-to-pack transfer.
Correct. So this was all, but this was known by everyone, and no one did anything. One of the things the RIP Report's going to do in the next month is we're going to go back now and celebrate the 10 years ago and let you know just exactly how this scam was pulled off in Fairhope. We'll give you times and dates and documents, and we'll even list the 130-page, I sent it to you, Harry, 130-page official complaint that was sent in at the time.
It's on our Facebook page.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. The thing that disturbed me the most about Mr. Pittman and his ability to get that kind of money was that later on, after the spill and when BP started going after some of the money that was misused, they went after people that for $3,500, $7,500, and they were convicted or had to pay the money back. And here Mr. Pittman walked away with $750,000 total.
$639,000.
$639,000, but he got $98,000 from Perdido Beach.
All right. So Senator Pittman has a brother. Senator Pittman's brother is an attorney.
Right.
Who's he representing right now, Paul?
This is all on 420. Maybe you need to smoke the joint before you read the report or listen to this, because it's so crazy.
So my Blackberry Mojito is almost gone, and I'm pretty sure the drink fairy's not coming back. So
I mean, it's just totally crazy that now we're faced with this thing with the McSharry case after all of this. And Mr. Pittman, James Pittman, who is Boom Boom Pittman's brother, is now representing Mr. McSharry, who hauled us all into court and wanted to subpoena us and carried on.
So Paul, look, check out your screen over here.
Yeah,
and you'll see this is a list of, and obviously it came off of the City of Fairhope's website. That's their municipal case number right there. Okay.
Right.
And so there's 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5, 6 Mississippis worth of criminal charges since MC10, so 2010. And you'll see right here, these last two are appealed, right?
Right.
And of course, we know this one was thrown out. And I just want to do a little explaining on that, and Lucy. So Alabama Rules of Criminal Procedure Rule 2, commencement and prosecuting criminal pleadings. Okay, and so we get down here to all this, and it says all misdemeanor offenses shall be prosecuted in district court or where adopted as municipal ordinance, municipal court, right? So municipal court is the right place to try Mr. McSharry. So then he asked for a trial de novo. And what that means is he gets a whole new trial in front of a jury in circuit court. Okay. So trial de novo, criminal proceedings prosecuted in the district or municipal court from conviction of which the defendant has appealed for a trial de novo. That means a completely new trial shall be prosecuted in the circuit court on the original charging instrument. So what Judge Stankowski said in his order last week was that the original charging instrument was defective because it did not allege that Mr. McSharry caused harm to the victim. Now, I really can't wait to get my hands on that document because I have a hard time believing that it doesn't say that he and there's some statutory requirements under the rules of criminal procedure that say you have to have specific language in certain charging documents. So how long you think how many thousands of these things has Hames Snedeker looked over? How many thousands of these things has Marcus McDowell prepared? Correct. How many thousands a year does the magistrate prepare down there in Fairhope? And this one got just whoops, right. Can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs.
And don't forget now that McSharry pleaded guilty in municipal court, and this was on film. So okay, then they kept putting the case off and putting the case off, and everybody was thinking, well, what's taking so long? What's taking so long? And now we're told that because there was an error by not including or amending did cause physical injury to another person, that now Mr. McSharry, through the error of the Fairhope city attorney, who's the prosecutor, Marcus McDowell, is not even going to face the charge. This is after a criminal record that is extensive. He has never served a single day in jail in Fairhope, and this continues year after year.
Yep. Nothing surprises me, man.
Well, I think there should be some accountability. Mr. McDowell has displayed in the past his loyalty to the president of the council, Mr. Burrell. Now,
I got no comment about any. This is all your ball of string.
That's correct. Okay. And the interesting connection there is that Mr. McSharry is Mr. Burrell's best friend, or one of his best friends. Of course, now they'll probably say they don't know each other. But this should be investigated, and the people in the city of Fairhope should be very, very upset at something like this happening. Somebody should be accountable, and it should start with the city attorney and then work its way down. I hope that, of course, we're not going to see the council. We're not going to see the council of Fairhope do one thing or say one thing. That's my prediction. So before I go too far, and somebody sues me, I'll shut up there.
All right, so I'm gonna go out on a limb here, and I'm going to talk a little bit about criminal procedure. And I do criminal law. It's not my bread and butter. Everybody's familiar with the term double jeopardy, correct? You can't be prosecuted twice for the same crime. Okay. Well, in these municipal cases, it's my belief that since he never put on a defense and his appeal from municipal court to circuit court was a trial de novo, and since a jury was never struck, while the municipality may be outside of their time they could charge him, I think it is very possible that the state of Alabama, and in particular the district attorney of Baldwin County, could take this information to the grand jury and have him indicted on similar charges. That's my humble opinion. I don't believe it's a double jeopardy issue because they didn't strike a jury in the trial de novo. Jeopardy never attached.
And the district attorney also should look into the straw man, our former county commissioner, Tucker Dorsey, and everything that, and his part in the fraud of the land deal involving Baldwin County Sewer. These things are being these are being published in Lanyap. We're talking about them on the podcast. They're being written up in the RIP report, and no authority, none, is doing anything.
Are you looking for some shock in my face?
Nope.
I don't think so. All right, so let's move on. We've talked about Ben Raines, the filmmaker and journalist over here. He used to be with AL.com. I've tried to contact him several times through them, and I don't know that he's actively writing for him anymore. But the best movie that he's done, in my humble opinion, is America's Amazon. Now he has come out with this new film, and you can I'll share a link to the trailer, and it's called Alabama's Eden. And in particular, he is looking at this area of Baldwin County right here, out by the farm in Phillipsville. And I actually took a picture. These picture plants are on the side of Phillipsville Road, and you can tell where the bush hog comes through here and cuts all this down every once in a while. Back here is the tree line, and this pitcher plant bog has moved this way out towards the road. So anyway, I just wanted to plug Ben. If you haven't seen America's Amazon or Alabama's Underwater Forest, I'm on pins and needles waiting to see what he wants to do. And, just one more time, this is our region right here, not necessarily the state of Alabama, in my humble opinion.
Well, I'd give a shout out to Ben Raines too. His films and documentaries have been excellent, excellent.
I agree. So Raines, what's going on in Houston? Give us a little update.
Right now, there is a great big quiet that has descended over Houston. I mentioned it before we started the podcast. At 1:30 today, that was just a little under an hour ago, West Texas Intermediate crude oil was trading at 19 cents a barrel. First time it's been below $1 ever. They finally closed the market.
Hey, Raines, is that a commodity? A commodities market, like a futures trading?
Yes.
Okay.
Oil has closed at negative $37 a barrel for West Texas Intermediate.
So does that mean they'll pay me 37 cents a barrel to come pick it up?
That means that the entire energy economy of the city of Houston and basically a full third of the economy of Texas has just completely and utterly stopped.
Right.
Every single rig is going to stop production if they haven't already.
Right in the middle of this virus.
So
Yeah.
what's that do to marginal profitability of things like shale oil and all this stuff going on in North Dakota? Is that this big pipeline?
It shuts it all down. There's nowhere to put any of it.
Right. There's nobody to sell it to, so why keep producing, right?
Correct. Like literally the stuff that's in the pipelines has to stop. There's nowhere else for it to go. And I mean that metaphorically and figuratively.
And I hate to blow your head up, but how long you been keeping your eye on these oil fusions? I mean, you and I have talked about it for a couple of days, and it really didn't seem like the time to bring it up last time because it looked speculative. But now, you've been watching this for a while. You think this is a real deal, or is this gonna?
Yeah,
is this the Dow 2 months ago, and it's gonna bounce back for no apparent reason other than people watch Fox News?
There have been no futures available to trade in the American crude oil market for the last. You can't get a future younger than 2 years right now, and a week ago it was the same way. This is because, and you blow my head up all you want. I was right. I said almost a year and a half ago. I said this deal with Rosneft basically becoming the state oil producer of Russia. When the Russians bought a
you talking about the Caspian Sea pipeline?
Yeah, they're gonna ramp up their Caspian Sea production by 40%, and within a year, we're going to see oil drop below $20 a barrel, and within 2 years, we'll see a glut, and we'll be in 1981 again, where everything's going to shut down. And guess what, America? North Dakota, West Texas. If there's anybody that's got to die by the end of this week, I'll dance a jig on camera because they're all going to put off.
And this is going to be, and this is on top of the economic devastation from the coronavirus.
Well, it's a good
result of it, yeah.
Yeah, it's a 1-2 combination punch, and this is going to absolutely destroy the symbiont economy of Houston, Texas, because we've had this happen before. Just 4 years ago, we had an oil glut, and all the people in the oil field got laid off, and all the energy companies shut down, and people that were at Chevron and at BP and at Shell and ConocoPhillips here in Houston, top 4 people, all of a sudden they got the pink slip.
Yeah.
And now it's going to happen again because stuff in the energy sector moves very rapidly because the window to make money is so small. And this is bad. This is an atomic bomb for Texas. And Texas is the 8th largest economy in the world.
I saw yesterday, I think it was, I believe it was on 59 going down to Gulf Shores, advertised $1.44 a gallon for regular. That's the lowest I've seen it here. So it's going to be interesting to see now where it goes after this happened today.
Oh, it's going to drop. It's going to drop significantly because people trade gasoline futures just like they trade oil futures. And that's what drives the gasoline price. It's not the price of a barrel of oil.
If anybody doesn't know what the hell we're talking about, go watch Trading Places with Dan Aykroyd and who else was
going to the market?
Frozen concentrated orange juice. Yeah. So here's what I fear: a return to the day when we can no longer afford deodorant. Down in this part of the country, it is a must. And that's really when I know we've hit rock bottom, when people can no longer afford deodorant or it's no longer available.
You would think my son thinks deodorant's the same price as the price of gold for seldom as he uses it. I got to tell him every day, boy, you stink. Put some on. Jeez.
Oh, don't worry. Look, dude, that 13, 14-year-old that switch is about to get flipped. And it's all going to be about what the girls like. And he won't give a shit what you have to say about anything. Trust me.
Yeah, we can only hope.
We can only hope. All right. So, Paul, wrap it up for me, man. Tell me what's going on in Fairhope.
Well, today we did the RIP report. We did a special on 420. So you can catch that on Monday Madness through the RIP report, the ripreport.com or Baldwin County Legal Eagle. And one of the things that we announce in there is the next 3 or 4 weeks we'll be outlining what happened with some of the BP money and how it was manipulated into the wrong hands.
I can't imagine that people don't already know about all this, Paul.
Well, I just want to remind them again and also let everybody know that social distancing is working. We've been pretty patient here. We're supposed to be closed until the end of May. That's less than end of April. That's less than 2 weeks. I think as a precaution, the people in this area in Baldwin County and Mobile would be very wise to wait until the 31st, and let's get a reassessment at that time, and everyone be safe.
And Rains, is that a shotgun and a Bear Bryant Coca-Cola behind you?
Yes, among other things.
Among other things. All right, boys. Well, I certainly appreciate y'all participating. I think we did a good 420 show.
All right. Yeah.
Nobody burned anything up.
And at 420 today, if people think there's a lot of fires going on, don't be alarmed. It's just people celebrating 420.
Well, y'all have fun. I'm gonna leave everybody with Mr. Hitchens, and I will see you guys later.
All right, good deal.
I find a seconder usually when I propose this, but I don't care. I don't need a seconder. My own opinion is enough for me, and I claim the right to have it defended against any